Welcome to the RUBSC podcast, Finding Your Triathlon Why, sponsored by BSC Multisport. I'm your host, Todd. I'm here with Jordan.
Hey, guys.
And Coach Scott.
Hey, everyone.
And Coach and Jordan, today the topic we'd like to really focus on, now that we know that certain restrictions are lifting and we're coming out of this first large wave of the COVID pandemic, getting back into the pool and talking about just getting our swim training back on course, pardon the pun, for getting ready for that race that could happen later this year. So, Coach, let's dive right in and have you give us, your talking points on re-entry into the pool out of COVID.
The first thing, probably the most important thing is reset your expectations. As you're starting to think about getting back to the pool, getting back in the water, reset your expectations. A lot of you right now are thinking, hey, no big deal, I'll jump in the water, I'll swim a quick 1,000, I'll shake off the rust, and I'll be good to go. And reality is not going to be that way. It's not going to be that kind. So reset your expectations. It's been months since most people have swam. For some people that haven't gotten back to the swimming yet, it's been longer than that. So don't be looking back where you were in January, February. If you were swimming then, don't be looking back to your A race last year, because you aren't going to be there. So just accept that and move on. And you'll just be so much better off if you go about the day-to-day process of being an athlete and training rather than looking back to the past. Mentally, you'll just be in a much better place. The first few weeks that you're back in the water, forget about intensity. Don't worry about pace. Don't worry about going fast. And I know you're saying, Coach, what are you talking about? I need to go fast. You're going to be a lot better off if you address the form, if you address technique. You're just going to be better off. If you're in the water trying to go fast, your form's going to go out the window, and you're just going to be in that losing battle. So first focus when you get back is just completing the workout with good technique. It's really cool right now in a sense because everybody has a do-over. Muscle memory's faded. It's been a few months. That muscle memory is what allows you to take a few months off the bike and get on and be able to ride it without falling off. It's the same thing that allows you to walk every morning without having to relearn how to walk. Well, in swimming, you've got muscle memory also, but it's been a while. It's faded. And so if you've been struggling with swimming, a lot of age group triathletes struggle with swimming, this is a chance to kind of get a do-over and learn how to do it again. And so, take advantage of that. And you can take advantage of that by doing the right things when you get in the water. And the right things are working on what you need to be working on. So I'm going to use Jordan as an example, because I like to pick on Jordan and he likes to pick on me. Jordan hates to do streamline kicking. He despises it. Every time I ask him to do streamline kicking, he grumbles. I get emojis that we shouldn't share. He just doesn't like it. And I know for certain, if I gave Jordan the choice between doing a pull set and doing a kick set, a streamline kicking set, Jordan will choose the pull set every single time. But the reality is for Jordan, and I've seen him swim, so I know this to be true, he sometimes has a bit of a balance issue, dropping his legs in the water. And so he can work on pulling all he wants, but he's not going to be able to overcome the drag created because his legs are dropping. And so when I say do the right thing, it means working on the thing that's going to benefit you the most. In Jordan's case, that's often going to be streamline kicking. Sorry, Jordan, I'm sharing your secrets. But
I don't call it streamline kicking. I call it waterboarding.
That's what helps Jordan. And so that may or may not be what's going to help you. What I'm saying is you need to do what is going to most benefit you. Now, how do you find that out? You get with a coach, you get with an instructor, you get a video analysis, you find out where your shortcomings are. Now, we do all of that at Team BSC, and I'm happy to talk to you about that if you'd like to talk. Get hold of me through the website. If not me, find a qualified coach, a qualified instructor, by which I mean somebody who understands triathlon swimming. A swim coach can certainly teach you about swimming, but there are some subtle differences for triathlon. Your goal at the end of the day for a triathlon is different than your goal at the end of the day for swimming. get with somebody who understands triathlon and get your technique sorted out. That's the most important thing. I talk all the time about fundamentals. Anybody who's a Team BSC member will tell you I talked about fundamentals, learning the fundamentals of swimming, and then layering new skills on top of those. So for example, learning how to kick, learning how to float, which keeps your legs up. As you learn how to kick and get your balance in the water better, where you're not dragging your legs, all of a sudden kicking gets easier. And as you learn to do those things, body rotation becomes easier. As your body rotation becomes better, breathing becomes easier. Freestyle is circular in that sense that everything impacts everything else. So work on technique first. You'll be so much better as you get back in the water. Take the first few weeks back in the water and work on your technique. I can't stress that enough. So that would be the biggest thing coming out of COVID. Don't worry about intensity, worry about technique.
So, Coach, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because we're all going to be confused getting back in, thinking I need to be right back where I was right before the pools closed. And instead, I have to now kind of reset my expectations, but also my approach in the water so that I don't injure myself and don't overdo it and blow up my training plan, right? What about volume then? Do I want to get back in and how do I know how many yards, how much volume per week? How should I approach this?
Well, it's kind of the same thing. You're not going to be where you were last January, February, or last summer. If you did an Ironman last year, your volume was, probably 10, 12, 15,000 meters a week. Should have been anyway. If you tried to do that today, you'd find yourself at the end of the pool with your thumb in your mouth. So just accept that. You're not going to be doing the same thing today. Ultimately, for volume, if you look at whatever your race distance is, ultimately you want to see 1.5 to 2 times your race distance, 3 to 4 times a week. So if you do the math on that, that means for an Ironman, you want to be ideally 6,000 meters 3 to 4 times a week. If you're looking at a sprint, you want to be 1,000 meters 3 to 4 times a week, so 3,000, 4,000 meters a week. You don't need to do that from day one. You're going to build up to that. So you'd start out for a sprint, you might start out with 20-minute swims. And I talk about this all the time. I'd rather see you in the water more frequently for less time than 1 time a week. So, okay, you're going to do 3,000 or 4,000 meters working up to a sprint, ultimately. I'd rather see you do 5 workouts of 700 meters rather than 1 workout of 4,000 meters. That frequency will help you. And Jordan, we were just talking about this earlier, and Jordan will tell you that he's experienced this. Getting in the water more frequently helps you to improve your feel for the water. And as your feel for the water improves, your efficiency improves. As your efficiency improves, your speed improves.
So Jordan, you've been getting back into the water. So talk to us a little bit about your approach and what you've had to do now with some of the restrictions lifting and how you make it work within your schedule.
Yeah, so I've been pretty fortunate. My pool that I go to is one of the first ones to open back up in Indiana. They required you to reserve a block of time, and there's only 6 reservations for that block. And then they close down, clean everything for half an hour, and then the next 6 people. Only 1 person per lane because it's a 6-lane, 25-yard lap pool. And the second I could get on there, I was getting on there and making my reservation. I was making sure, I was getting, 3 to 4 swims in for the last couple weeks of legitimate workouts. But the other thing that I kind of supplemented with that was my family, we just love to be in the water. We have a community pool that we join every year. My kids do swim team on it. And we just try to get to the pool. Well, they have, 45 minutes of kid playtime swim, and then they close for 15-minute adult swim. So I would get in the water for, 15 minutes and I just, swim. Maybe I was, just swimming some 100s, some 200s, or, one time I just went for, a 15-minute, time trial swim but like Coach did say, focusing on form, trying to think about one thing to kind of get better at. Like the last swim I had, I was really just focusing on trying to get that early catch, get a good pull. Um, you know, it's not 100% feasible for me to not worry about time. I tend to be, more competitive, sometimes just competitive with myself. So I didn't try to, you know, swim all out because my form would last. But what I did try to do is I tried to swim a constant effort, one of those old discussions of RPE. So I tried to swim what I would consider, a hard swim, like maybe like an RPE 7 out of 10, but not like an all out sprint, but enough where I was working hard, but I was also improving my swim. And I've noticed, it's only been a couple weeks, and I'm starting to see some of the times that I had back, and it's only been, 2 weeks and maybe 7 or 8 longer swims with, a half dozen, just 15-minute swims, and it's coming back. So I'm not too worried about the swim. I think that, just putting in the effort, focusing on the form, and the rest will come. Endurance is probably the thing that's taking the most to come back. I do notice, like, I've always, what got me into triathlon is I had a bum shoulder, had some shoulder surgery, and I've lost a little bit of the strength and endurance in it. And I can feel at the end of some of those swims, my shoulder is like a little sore because there's still a lot of like little muscles that you'll use in swimming that you just don't use any other time throughout the day. So as that strength builds back up, I'm not sore at the end of a 3,000-yard workout or something. And just getting in, staying consistent, and even just playing in the water with the kids. 2 days ago, Joshua decided to race me in butterfly. Luckily, I was able to win against my 8-year-old, but I think I maybe have about 1 year left of that max.
Yeah.
But just doing that kind of fun stuff. Enjoy the water, get in the water as much as you can. It doesn't all have to be structured. Just swimming around with kids, that's good water time.
Right.
Going
So
to Gordon's point there, just being comfortable in the water, we're land creatures. We live on the land. We do all of our life on the land. And so the more comfortable you can become in the water, the better swimmer you're going to be. And that goes to Jordan just playing. Well, I wouldn't advocate playing as a training method. Becoming comfortable in the water does have benefits. And also to Jordan's point about it starting to come back, in reality, it's going to take about 30 to 50% of the time that you've been off to get all the way back. Now, your feel for the water will come back very quickly. Within a week or two, you'll start to get your feel for the water back. And that's Jordan starting to experience that now. The thing that takes a little bit longer is the fitness, the swim fitness. And something that most people don't understand is that swim fitness and technique are two sides of the same coin. You can't have one without the other. So to have good technique, you've got to have good swim fitness. But to have good swim fitness, you've got to have good swim technique. And so you need to develop those simultaneously, because obviously you don't just get thrown in the water the first time and have perfect technique. And the reason that's so is, and Jordan alluded to this, you're using real small muscle groups when you're swimming properly. The EVF is a good example. When you're doing a proper early vertical forearm, you're using muscle groups that you wouldn't otherwise be using. And so if you're not doing the EVF properly, you're not going to have the swim fitness in those muscles. And so you have to have the good technique, in this case, the good EVF, to develop the good swim fitness. And so it takes time to get that back. Getting in the water, just having fun, playing with your kids, that gets you comfortable in the water. You're not going to be afraid to go underwater. You're not going to be afraid to get water in your eyes. Those things, they sound rather subtle and rather silly, but they're huge on race day when you're comfortable in the water.
mm-hmm.
And so all of that works together. And coming back out of COVID, because you've been out of the water for so long, you kind of have a clean slate. And that's where this is it's a good opportunity.
So Jordan, you were able to work with your local pool. They had a schedule, they had a plan for you to be able to reserve a lane, and it was very easy for you to get in, find your lane, get your workout done, and get out, right? So there was some structure there. When I assume you were out for about 8 to 10 weeks when everything was shut down, your first day back in the water, talk to us a little bit about that.
I felt weak. I didn't. I got tired. I just didn't feel. I didn't feel like my form felt right. I did. I felt like a fish out of water. Um, there just it just didn't feel good when you got done with the swim workout. It just kind of felt like you dragged yourself through it. Um, but every swim felt a little bit better. Don't be afraid if it doesn't feel good when you first get back. It will come, and it will get a little bit better with every swim. I mean, I'm like Coach had said, it's going to take a little bit longer to get back to where I was swimming, before COVID. Not a big deal. You know, the fitness will come, the strength will come. I've noticed my shoulder doesn't, like, it would get pretty sore after just 1,500 or 2,000 yards, and then every so often it gets a little bit, it's taking a little bit longer. Um, don't be afraid that you don't have the swim fitness you had. Just stay open, keep working at it. You'll get there.
And
As the form comes back, excuse me, the fitness will follow quickly. And excuse me, what Jordan was talking about there was the feel coming back. The first time he got in the water, he had no feel for the water because he hadn't been in the water for so long. And so as the feel comes back and you feel like you're doing better in the water, the form starts to come back. As the form starts to come back, the fitness starts to come back. And in Jordan's case, we'll just keep throwing butterfly at him and we'll get the fitness back quickly.
Butterfly is way better than the streamlined waterboarding. That's for sure.
right. So, Coach, the other thing that you've done, I've noticed on some of the training plans, is also add some dry land work with stretch bands and things like that. So, coming out of COVID, getting back in the water, should we be considering to continue those dry land exercises to help bring our fitness back, or is that just good practice to continue as well to keep our fitness up in the pool?
When I was swimming competitively, we used what's called an exergenie, and you can still find those and still acquire those. And we did dry land before every single workout. And so 7 days a week, we had our exergenies on the fence, and we were doing drills to work on the EVF. And the really cool thing about doing that with an exergenie or with stretch bands is that you can see what you're doing. So your hand's out in front of you, and you can see, am I truly getting an EVF? When you're in the water and it's happening quickly, you can't always see that you're doing it. I can't tell you how many times, and it's virtually every time I've ever looked at a video. I'll talk to the athlete beforehand. How's your EVF? Oh, I've got a great EVF. And then we look at an underwater video shot of them swimming, and they're nowhere near a true early vertical forearm. And I'll show them theirs versus somebody who's truly got an early vertical forearm. And so working on dry land, it allows you to see that motion, to make sure that you've truly got an EVF. And then it becomes transferring that to the water when you speed things up. But so I'm a big believer in dry land and continuing to do that with age group athletes. You run into time crunch issues. It's hard to ask people to do that and take another 15 or 20 minutes before a workout that they're already time crunched. And so, I would argue it's worth the time, certainly a couple times a week, to continue doing dry land.
Great. Jordan, do you do any weights or fitness that specific to the swim that helped you maintain a certain level during the COVID
No,
restrictions?
I just took it off. I tried to do one, workout for it, and I didn't really enjoy it. And so, I participate and compete in triathlons to kind of have fun. So just kind of focused more on the bike and run during COVID. The run, I still have a lot of room to grow. And so that's kind of where we put a lot of focus in. And, we'll see how that pays off this year. But I took the time off. I figure I'll get it back eventually. Swimming was the thing that I was most comfortable with coming into triathlon. I would argue now the thing I enjoy to do the most is the bike, but I still love to swim. I was pretty comfortable swimming, although, you know, I hadn't swam competitively since I was like in elementary school. So, but it's one of those things, everybody will say, you know, adult onset swimming versus swimming as a youth. You don't totally lose it. It just takes a while to get it back.
Yeah. Good. And coach, you know, with the focus shifting to the bike and the run during the COVID kind of restrictions, what are you seeing with your athletes now that are entering the pool or about to enter the pool? Should we be expecting something different right now as an athlete going into the water, coming out of the water, maybe not feeling 100%, but we've probably kept our overall cardiac fitness up because of the bike and run increase?
The aerobic engine is still there, but swimming, because it's so highly technical, um, and because you've lost the fitness in swimming muscles, then yes, there is going to be some degradation there. Um, Swimming, you're talking about core, you're talking about your shoulders, and it's kind of the cool thing about swimming. You can really swim hard in a triathlon, harder than you could cycling or running, and get away with it because you're using completely different muscle sets. But core becomes important, but core is important in all three disciplines in a triathlon. Um, so what I'm hearing from the people that have been back in the water is just what I heard from Jordan just now. They felt weak in the water when they got back in. They felt that they had no form, and that's because their feel for the water has gone away. That comes back very quickly, a few sessions, and you'll start to see a difference in the feel for the water. The fitness, it takes a little bit longer. Yes, the aerobic engine is still there, so it's not like you were the very first time you swam, whenever that may have been. But it's still you're still not gonna be able to do what you did. If you were able to do a 6,000 meter workout before COVID, you're not likely gonna hop in the water and easily do that same workout. And so that goes back to what I said at the very beginning: reset your expectations and understand that going in. Accept the fact that you're starting from a different place than you were a few months ago. And if you accept that and work from that, you'll get back to where you were much more quickly than trying to fight against it and saying, well, doggone it, I did 6,000 meters before, I'm going to do 6,000 meters today. And all you end up doing is overriding muscle memory with really poor form. And that's what your muscles are going to remember. And so now you've just set yourself back even further. So just accept those differences and move on from there.
Yeah, so this has been a really good discussion. Just coming out of this, we know that, coming out of COVID, we know that our expectations should be different, getting in the water, getting comfortable again in the water, focusing on our technique, and having a little fun with it while we know, and trusting that it will come back. And I think those are key points that really are important as we start to all get back into our swim training again. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate the time today to dig into this a little bit. I think this is quite helpful, knowing that pools are starting to open and races look like they're starting to stick on the calendar. So looking forward to seeing the BSC athletes out there on course this summer and into the fall. If you want to learn more about TMBSC, find us at bscmultisport.com and like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again soon.